Hey guys, how you doing? I almost got that right. Hold on one second. Okay, well that's good enough. My name's Nick. And this is NickStar Tips. I had to change the name because I was looking on YouTube and I saw a few other channels with similar names, Nick Tips, Nick's Tips, and things like that. There are like 5 or 6 of them or something. And my stage name used to be Nick Star. And while I was a dancer, I did dance battling, improvisational hip hop dancing, street dancing, dance for a band, like like a backup dancer, and I also sang for the band. And so I guess it was also my singing name. And I also did performances in restaurants and things. Um, Pretty much everything was clean, for the most part. You can't always count on secular music being the cleanest, but it was appropriate enough. I will say that I really had no clue how many times I've done Billie Jean. I've done that a ton of times. Plus, I was in a couple of music videos, um, and that's just history. But anyway, I like using that name, Nick Star. It's it's a real catchy name. And so this is NickStar Tips, the new name of this segment. And last time, uh, so for Nick Tip, which will be now NickStar Tip, number 1 was ask the right questions. And please remember that this comes from my own experiences, my own education, and I'm hoping that that can help you. It's no substitute for looking into things yourself, for asking a professional, like when it comes to your health, like a doctor or a nurse or a lawyer for the law, or say a pastor, a pastor that has sound doctrine, um, like me, I've studied some of John MacArthur's material and Pastor Carl Broggie and Brian Denlinger on he has a YouTube channel, and also King James Video Ministries, if I have that name right. Robert Breaker, I watched a lot of his stuff. I saw like Robbie, if that's the name, Robbie Zacharias, some of his stuff. You know, was Daniel Wallace, if I have it correct, he teaches textual criticism. The reason I'm throwing out these names is I'm just giving you some options of some theologians that you can look up and look into the information that they have. But I will say that the most important thing, especially if you're not saved, is to come to Jesus Christ first to be saved. And I can go over more if anybody wants to know. But anyway, today the NickStar tip number 2 is study out the answers and be willing to accept what you find. Okay, and what I mean by that is basically don't ignore the truth and facts. How's my hat look? Pretty good. And some things are definite and other things are changeable. So basically, some things will never ever change. Like God, He never ever changes. So basically, 2 years ago, He was the same as He is today. But say a law, that was, a law 2 years ago may not be the same today. It may have been abolished or a brand new law might have been written. That changes, or tax code, things like that. Especially with inflation and all that. If you were to buy a candy bar 2 years ago, for, I don't know, say 98 cents to like $1.10. I'm not exactly sure because I hadn't really bought, too many candy bars. But today you might have to buy it for like, $1.50 to like $1.70. I don't know, maybe more, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's the basic idea. And the other basic idea is that if I were to present you something like, say, very, fundamental and covers, generally everything, is God. If I were to say to you that there is a God, and He created this universe and He sustains this universe, and we have, all kinds of evidence. We have historical evidence, we have archaeological evidence, we have manuscript evidence, we have Jesus Christ who came in the flesh evidence, we have the apostles' evidence, we have Christians' evidence. We have the Holy Spirit working through Christians' evidence. We have tons more evidence. We have the universe, the way that it's sustained mathematically, evidence. And you were to just say, well, no, none of that's true. That answer that you're giving me, it's not an answer at all. It's just bogus. I don't believe in God. It's obvious that evolution is true, that we all came from monkeys and, some type of sea creature or something like a tadpole or some type of half fish thing, and half fish, half lizard or whatever, and in the primordial soup, and that's how life began, and there was no Adam and Eve, and, and all this stuff. And so the answer that I'll be providing you, there is a God. I'm telling you all this evidence, and I'm telling you, and basically I'm directing you, how to look into if there actually is a God. And you just say, no God, no matter what you say, I'm not going to look into it. I've already, basically you're saying, I've already decided what the truth is without even looking into it. And you can believe in evolution. You can believe in pretty much anything you want. But how do I say this? That's your choice. It doesn't mean that it's real. When you compare evolution with God, creationism, that there is a God and there is a very specific God. Jesus Christ proved that, and the Holy Spirit inspired Word of God proves that, and Christians prove that, the apostles proved that. When you line them up side by side, and you start to really study and really dig, a lot of people will find that problematic because they can no longer believe in something like evolution when they see the evidence that is stacked up for God, for Jesus Christ, for the Bible. And this is exactly what I'm talking about on any level, and it goes in reverse too, that basically if someone were to come to me and say, evolution is real and God is not real, and they would be like, we have historical evidence, we have the dinosaurs, we have oil, that comes from the dinosaur bones, and we have like icemen that we found, and we have I don't know, we have all this evidence and stuff. Okay, then I'd say, okay, then help me with the evidence that you have. Tell me what I need to look into to find out if evolution is true. And I've looked into some of the whole evidences for evolution, and it doesn't stack up, as far as I know. And it definitely doesn't stack up when it comes to God, because He created the universe, and evolution doesn't explain how the universe is mathematically sound, that basically we can predict everything mathematically, and there's such fine tuning. It doesn't explain our DNA, it doesn't explain a lot of things, it's a sort of answer, and it's a problem that it's taught in schools and stuff like that, because these are supposed to be educational institutions, and yet we can't teach God. But that's a whole another thing, very important. But another thing, the Bible also says something to the effect, if I don't have it exactly right, that men love the darkness, or they didn't want to come to the light because they love the darkness, right? And basically what that means to me is that, I love my own way so much that I don't need God. I don't need anybody, looking over my shoulder or holding me to a certain standard, that I want to do whatever I want, whenever I want, consequence free. And that's really it. You want freedom from God, and but the thing is none of us are ever free from God, and I say that in the best way possible, because there is freedom in God, but we're never free from God, because at the end of the day and at the end of our lives, um, when we go in front of him, we're going to have to answer for the things that happen in our life. He is the judge. Um, and I'm a Christian, so I'm going to be talking about a lot of these sort of things. But this is about, this specific segment is about my personal experience and education and things that I'm hoping will help you if you take this advice. And you can leave the advice if you want to. I put it in your hands to do with you as you will. I don't condone using this advice in the wrong way. Okay. Another one might be if I were to tell you America was founded as a Christian nation. Okay. Now, I didn't know this, and I actually thought for a time that, as a Christian, that I wasn't supposed to vote, because of a lot of satanic influences in politics, but once I found out more about America's history and how we had a lot of, Christian founding fathers, and how basically a lot of the Bible, a lot of the Constitution was derived directly from the Bible and directly from pastors' words and Christians, and also how the Capitol building doubled as a church building, and how the Ten Commandments was all over the Capitol building. I changed my mind, because I saw the evidence, and I was like, wow, I didn't know this before, they established it on God, and there's plenty of evidence, so it changed my mind, and a pastor helped me with that. But if I were to propose that to you, you might, I don't know who everybody is, but you might tell me, no, our founding fathers were a bunch of deists or pagans or all kinds of other things. For a while there, I thought that, a lot of our founding fathers were like Masons, and that they were like a secret cult or something, because this is just some of the, the back alley information I came across, somewhat on YouTube, and some from hearing it, and other from maybe school. When you're in school, they don't exactly teach a lot about God, or Jesus Christ. I think that prayer was taken out of school in 1965. It might have been 1964. I'm not exactly sure, but so basically, things have progressed to basically get God out of the picture, so people, so the school system can teach things like evolution and Darwinism and all that other stuff, and it gets so ingrained, you get so used to it that basically it becomes so comfortable in a way of life for you, and then all your friends believe it or whatever, that basically you be going against the current, going against all the other fish or all the other cattle or all the other lemmings or whatever. If basically you looked into it for yourself and you found out the truth, and then you started telling the truth of what the evidence points to, of what reality is, of what facts are, or what the truth is. And it means that you might put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, that, you might not get along with your friends in the same way. You might not even have those same friends, because basically the truth will change that if you can't get along. If basically you believe this and they believe that, and they don't want anything to do with you because you believe this. And that will happen. You're going to have less of a relationship with some of the people that have different information that they believe in, and carry with them, that opposes the evidence and the truth and the facts that you have and is real. But what do? If we have an answer that's proposed to us, the best thing that we can do is study it, research it. We have the internet these days. Now I know that Google throws out some, a lot of interesting. How do I say this? When you put things into the search engine, it puts out a lot of results. A lot of interesting results, and sometimes you have to weed through a lot of the bad results to find good results. And a lot of times it goes, you have to study what, pastors say, and you have to study, what are good books to read, based on, evidence, and basically a lot of it takes study, but it's a lot easier these days because we have the internet, we have all the information that we can basically ask for at the tip of our fingers. Um, Whereas before, you'd have to go to a library, and if they had that particular book or whatever, and still even back then, when we had to go to a library, um, you could still pretty much find anything that you needed. You just have to study, cross-reference, and basically use the scientific method. You have your control group, you have what you think you know, then you have your variable, what you don't know, what you haven't tested, and you test it. You test it with other information to see if it lines up. Um, and we can use that mathematically. I mean, it's really not that hard once you really get into it and start just looking at things side by side. I only had one pen, so I could only do that. Another one might be the age of the Earth. Some scientists might say that it's billions of years old or millions of years old or whatever. And to my knowledge, we only have we only have writings going back something like 6,000 years, something like that, or 6,500. And there's a lot of controversial information about all that, but and then basically I've seen that some of the erosions that they would say take millions of years can take a lot less time, even especially with volcanic activity and stuff like that, and then you have to consider how was the Earth created, if it was created, because was it just created as this shiny globe, or would it have been fashioned in a way that there would be some art and structure to it, so there's different things to consider, but this answer that's given, okay, if I propose that the Earth is less than 10,000 years old, what do you say? No, and no, I'm not going to look into it. It's billions of years old. Everybody knows that, or it's millions of years old, and aliens, planted the seed of life here or something, and everybody knows that type of thing. Is that just what you go with, or we evolved from whatever, is that just what you go with because that's what you were taught, and you're comfortable with it, and you're going to die in that thought because that's just what you're comfortable with, and you're not trying to stir the pot, type of thing. So here it is, the Earth is less than 10,000 years old. To my knowledge, that's absolutely correct. We have lineages that go back to Adam and Eve, biblically, and yeah, I would say I fully believe that, and just from the evidence that I have, and so do you look at that answer and you say that that's not true, and I'm not going to look into it, or do you take that answer and study it out, and then once you study it out, are you going to be willing to accept what you find, Now another one might be, let's see, what's hurting you or making you sick? I've spoken to people about deodorants, about the toxicity of deodorants. You're putting it directly on your skin. Your body is like absorbing that toxicity as well as other things that you put on your body. And that can be an easy one, but some people might not accept that. They might be like, oh, there's nothing wrong with putting deodorant on your skin, it's not going to hurt you, da 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 da. Another thing might be, drinking soda. I heard somewhere, or I read somewhere, that the leading cause of osteoporosis in women is phosphoric acid that is, prominent in sodas. And I think it's also in maybe some salad dressings and some fast food and things like that. But it's bad for your bones. And I've had times, where I drink a soda, and it had been a while since I had drank a soda, and for some reason, it's like it would come out of, my armpits, and like I would feel the acid escaping me. And it was the weirdest thing. I mean, it was like my body was just rejecting the acid, from the soda. And I think that that does speak to being healthy, to an extent, because like I know a guy one time to where I saw his t-shirts that he would wear on a regular basis, and the armpits were black. I mean, they were stained black underneath his white t-shirt, and it's because that's toxicity. That's all the toxins escaping his body. I don't have that because I don't have a lot of extra toxins escaping my body, and plus I clean my shirts. So that's a whole other thing. And I will say this on that note as well, getting into another issue is clothes. I've had to tell people that, if you have some type of skin condition or rash or multiple number of things, it might be because your clothes aren't clean. It could be because of the chemicals that you're adding to your clothes, like, fabric softeners or even dryer sheets or whatever, when you're wearing that and that's absorbing into your body and stuff, and it's creating rashes. It can even, maybe be creating eczema, um, and you have to consider that. But also, are you cleaning your clothes? Because say you're not cleaning your clothes, and that can lead to funguses and, and smells and all kinds of stuff and sickness. And say you're not cleaning your washer or dryer. That's another. And actually that one I'm saving for another time, because I do want to get into those things about washing and drying clothes and stuff, because that's a deeper issue. But say you're not washing your, if you're not bleaching out your washer and dryer every now and then bacteria can breed in there, and it can be an infestation of bacteria and fungus and all that stuff, and you're wearing that, and breathing it in and all that stuff. But similar things can, and this is all along the lines of, if someone says this to you, are you just gonna ignore it? And and some people just live with the conditions that they have on their body, and they'd be like, I just deal with it. It's part of life. Why not see the problem for what it is a problem? And if someone gives you an answer, be like, this is a solution to what you have. You have the option of looking into that solution and saying, oh wow, this works. This cures me of this thing I've been dealing with. Because we all, as human beings, have to take care of our bodies, and things just, sometimes pop up that, we might spontaneously get, I think I got, sick one time, from eating a chicken sandwich, and I think I had like food poisoning for a week, and I had to go to the hospital and everything. I was constantly, throwing up and everything. I know that's bad, but but things spontaneously, come up. When I was a kid, I had scabies, for, I don't know, a short amount of time, maybe a month or whatever, and I remember having pink eye, and you know, I don't know, there are just, things, and then if you go out into the sun and, you're out there too long, and you might not have realized it or whatever, and then, and you have a paler complexion as far as, I will say this, maybe a white person versus maybe a black person, we're going to get burnt a lot easier, and, and so if I'm out in the sun, for like 3 hours or whatever, and then, I come back from being in the sun, by the end of the day, I might be almost lobster red or something. Whereas it's different for someone who doesn't burn like that. Their skin is different, and it absorbs the sun differently. But these are just different things that our bodies have to deal with, and different ethnicities have different things that their bodies, deal with in different ways. But anyway, and that's a whole other thing, if someone were to give you an answer to, like, me, I advocate for shea butter. If, I've blatantly told some people the answer of using shea butter for, a sunburn, like it being really good for your skin. I'm talking about all naturals shea butter, and they instantly go to aloe vera. Now, I've used aloe vera before, and even though it can cool you off and, and help with, like an immediate burn or something, like shea butter, it absorbs into the skin. It can be greasy and all that stuff, but it's like it heals it, and by the end, like if I use the shea butter correctly, I won't even peel. Like I'll just tan. you know. But if I don't use the shea butter, say I only use aloe vera, to my knowledge, then I'll peel, you know. And so basically, it still ends in skin cells and all that. Um, and these are just answers, you know, that basically, are you going to ignore, or are you going to look into, or are you going to try? I mean, you know, da 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 da. I am not promoting anybody go out there and get sunburn. Believe me, I am not promoting that at all. Or say you have a legal issue, you know, and you can do some legal study on your own. If someone tells you, you know, that you can fight this ticket, you know, with in an appropriate way. Because I had somebody say that I was doing like a 63 and a 35, and I examined the area, and it was actually a 45 zone, and so I fought the ticket, you know, and I did have to get a lawyer, but you know, I put together my own case there for a while, but I had, you know, sufficient evidence that that I wasn't in a 35 zone, and at the time I was probably doing, you know, 63 in that area, but it was similar to what other people around me were doing, and then there was also another car doing it, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, um, but it definitely wasn't a 35 zone, you know. Anyway, but that's another thing, you know. Do you accept that answer and you be like, okay, I'm going to study it, da 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 da, or are you just going to be like, no, no, they said this, you know, I just accept whatever they say. You have to understand that your police officers, your legal officials, you know, your judges, your and then when you get into politics, you know, like the upper executive, you know, the executive branch or the legislative branch, they work for the American people, or at least they're supposed to. So we are the boss, you know. We elect them, or we're supposed to elect them, and that's a whole other thing that I do hope to get into down the list of this, or even the other channel that I have, Spiritual Meat. But anyway, I'm going to try to wrap this up. Another thing is, say other things like, you know, chemtrails. You know, if I were to say to you, chemtrails are a real thing, you know, would you do any research, or would you be like, no, they're not? You know, another example, you know, and if you did do research, would you be like, oh, all the evidence points to it being a real thing, you know? But I'm just deciding that it's not a real thing, you know. All this evidence that I see, it's just bogus, it's just made up, da 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 da. Another thing